So let's talk about Lisa Miller. When we went over the Fetzer introduction video, we saw interviews with both Linda Lantieri and a woman by the name of Lisa Miller, and she's heavy into the spiritual stuff, but we want to get to know who she is because she does play a very important part with this. So, who is Lisa Miller? She founded the Spirituality Mind-Body Institute and Spirituality Mind-Body Practices area of focus at the Columbia University, Teachers College, Columbia University. She's also a professor of psychology and education, clinical psychology program at Columbia University. Her specialty is child psychiatry. It's amazing how many child psychiatrists have been involved with creating the SEL program. Very interesting. She's also spirituality and psychology consultant for, you want to talk about spreading the mystery religion? She's a consultant for the U.S. military, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, many K through 12 schools, as well as higher education schools, the environmental initiatives, and private and public organizations. There's just too many to mention. Her new age and new thought beliefs are spreading very, very wide. We'll just say that. She's also the principal investigator for several projects funded by the National Institute of Mental Health. That is a government organization. She's the president of the two-time, because she was voted in twice, president of American Psychological Association, the Society in Spirituality and Psychology Department, as well as the American Psychological Association Council representative. She sits on the board for that. She was also the solo editor of the Oxford University Handbook of Psychology and Spirituality. That was the 2012 edition. And this is where we're going to really take a look. President, CEO, and member of the Board of Trustees for the Collaborative for Spirituality and Education. Now, that's the one we're going to focus on right now because this is going to lead us into a whole new trail of things. But that's Lisa Miller. She is one who is injecting as much New Age and spirituality, satanic religion into your children's curriculum as possible. She's one of the main people doing it, along with Linda Lantieri and Fetzer and all those people. Isn't she lovely? So her reach is everything from child psychiatry to teaching spiritual psychology in college to consulting the U.S. military and Department of Health. But she's also written a few telling books as well, because everybody knows in 2023, parents can't be parents without parenting books, right? Anyways, one of her books is The Spiritual Child, the new science on parenting for health and lifelong thriving. Hey, I think we have that word. That's right. First column, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth word down, thrive. Red flag word right off the bat. We're going to see several of these red flag words today. So yeah, keep track of that. But yeah, new science on parenting and health. So what is the summary of this book? In The Spiritual Child, psychologist Lisa Miller presents the next big idea in psychology, the science and the power of spirituality. Again, if we go back to red flag word, spirituality, first column, fourth word down. Spirituality is a generalized term for pretty much new age, new thought stuff. Spirituality can be just picking and choosing different things from all these different religions. You don't necessarily fall in line with one specific religion. You're just taking what you like from each one. It's like an a la carte for evil religion. That's what it is. It's just a generalized term. Well, whatever you feel, whatever your emotion is, whatever you're led to follow type of thing. And that's what they're pushing in. Of course, all that's rooted in Gnosticism as well. We've talked about all that as well. But the science and power of spirituality. She explains the clear scientific link between spirituality and health and shows that children who have a positive, active relationship to spirituality have significantly more positive markers for thriving. Oh, there's the word again. Including an increased sense of meaning and purpose and high levels of academic success. And of course, we understand that's where they're putting this SEL agenda because spirituality is part of SEL. And so, of course, they're going to push academic success through that. But what they mean by academic success is not the ability to think on your own, to use critical thinking, to have common sense, to utilize logic, to question things, to go and learn yourself. What they mean by academic success is better understanding of the agenda that they are force feeding into the kids. How well do they follow along with this re-education camp that we have placed children in? That's what they mean by academic success, not actual learning. That's why I always like the quote from what's his face? Is it Mark Twain? And I'm not endorsing Mark Twain because I know he was out there on some stuff. But he always said, I never let schooling interfere with my education. I absolutely love that, because his education, while it was skewed in some areas, was to go and learn on his own, not just get told what to believe in. Schools were, schooling, I'll say it this way, schooling is meant to teach children how to go and learn. But what it is now is we're going to teach you what we want you to believe, so you'll fall in line in society like a good little robot. That's kind of what it is now, just to kind of generalize it. Book 2 from Lisa Miller, The Awakened Brain. Wait, where have I seen? Oh, yeah, column 1, first word, awaken. There it is. Yep. The Awakened Brain, you can even see that lotus flower there that's heavily involved with New Age stuff as well. And it says, the new science of spirituality and our quest for an inspired life. Inspired life. How inspirational. Let's go chat it up with Tony Robbins, who also goes in with this stuff as well. But summary of the book says, whether it's meditation or meditation or a walk in nature, reading a sacred text, or saying a prayer to who, there are many ways to tap into a heightened awareness of the world around you. Remember, this is part of the oneness. We are one with the earth. That's where that, heightened awareness of the world around you type of stuff, and you're placed in it. And the Awakened Brain psychologist, Dr. Lisa Miller, shows you how. Absorbing, uplifting, and ultimately enlightening. Oh, there's another red flag word. The Awakened Brain is a conversation-starting saga of scientific discovery packed with counterintuitive findings and practical advice on concrete ways to access your innate spirituality and build a life of meaning and contribution. Let me read that again. Practical advice on concrete ways to access your innate spirituality and build a life of meaning and contribution. What's one of the main things that they've been preaching along with the UN SDGs? It's going to take all of us, contribution from all of us. While some people may think those are separate, those two things are the same thing. Because the SDG goals go right along with this New Age stuff that she's pushing. They're the same thing. So now one of Miller's biggest projects is called the Collaborative for Spirituality and Education, or CSE for short, because I'm not going to continue to say that entire title. Combining her SMB Institute, Spirituality, Mind, Body, with a partnership and funding by the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisory Group. The Rockefellers have reportedly given $6.4 million to the Fetzer Institute, who's also partnered with CSE, as well as $1.2 million to CSE directly. And co-founder of Castle, of course, was Eileen Rockefeller, who was also the founding chair of the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. So we're seeing a wide connection of Fetzer, Rockefeller, and the CSE, Spirituality, Mind, Body Institute. We're seeing how these guys are just constantly throwing stuff at each other to get the castle and the cell stuff out as much as possible. So we're seeing all that wrapped up. So let's take a look at CSE to see what they have going on over there, just to get an idea of what they're slinging as far as this stuff goes. This is taken from their website, direct quotes from their website. It says, the next wave, here we go, whole child education. Whole child, there it is. Spirituality that has to do with emotion, that has to do with your soul, has to do with your mind, has to do with all these things. They're trying to infiltrate every bit of your child, and they do it under this little cute little thing of whole child. We've talked about it in the past episode, so you can go and check that out if you haven't seen it yet. This is Designing Transformative School Culture. It says, we are working to transform public and private education. That's right. And it's even in the Christian schools too, quote unquote Christian schools, by promoting spiritual and moral development within schools, and by giving educators, ding, 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 teachers and principals, tools to build classrooms and schools that nurture the inner life of their students. Yeah, schools, you have no business being in the inner life of their students, but that's what it was built for, ultimately, if you want to go back to Dewey, who created this whole mess. We do this work through 4 strategic initiatives. What are those initiatives? One is research. We gather successful practices and lessons learned from master practitioners, develop our process of school change, and share these findings. 2, oh yeah, you're reading that right. The Awakened Schools Institute. We bring educational leaders and teachers from around the country to learn about and reflect together on ways that their schools can develop a more spiritually supportive culture. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let's continue on with these points they've got. 3, public speaking through conferences, social media. That's a big one. Social media. It's not for us to connect with our old high school friends that we haven't seen in 20 years. No, it was built specifically to usher in this this transhumanist world. We'll probably go over that later on in this series. I don't know when, but I've got a lot of stuff on that we'll probably go over. In outreach, we share our work with schools, universities, researchers, and the public who want to do more to support the inner spirit of our children. Not your responsibility. Number 4, the National Council on Spirituality in Education. Through our National Conference on Spirituality in Education and other events, we are continuing to build a movement begun at our National Conference in 2019. Our conference and events gather practitioners and academics to collaborate on ideas and initiatives, there we go, that will advance the field of spirituality in education. Yikes. All right. Let's keep going, get a better understanding of what CSE is, because we got kind of an idea, but let's see what's going on. So, Collaborative for Spirituality and Education, brought to you by the Spirituality Mind Body Institute of Columbia. And it goes on to say, spiritual and moral development not only benefits the individual child, it is critical for building a society of engaged citizens. Here we go, guys. This is big, because this is the same junk that the WEF and the UN and all these, 3-letter organizations have been spewing out for years and years to get these policies in there. The policies that we think are just politics. No, this is what it is. The new normal, a new worldview is where it originally came from, has to do with re-education for this. And this is part of it. So I'm going to read that again. Spiritual and moral development. What type of moral development do they want? Not the morals biblically, like we're supposed to have that God gave us. No, they're talking about their morals, if you want to call them morals at all. Spiritual and moral development not only benefits the individual child. So it's not just about, the person. No, it is critical for building a society of engaged citizens committed to the common good. What does that sound like, y'all? The word that starts with C. And we're going to be rolling from that C word, communism, into what I believe they're establishing, which is the neo-feudalistic technocracy. Communism is just a step to it. And we're pretty much already there. So we're starting to move past it into kings and peasants ruled through technology. But that has to do with the common good. That's what they're teaching your kids in this stuff. The renewal of American democracy. Okay, hold on. Oh, boy. Renewal of American democracy. I've talked about this before. Democracy doesn't exist. I know that may throw some people off, but democracy is an illusion. It is a word that they throw out to give you the idea that you have the options, that you have choice. That's what the whole thing of democracy is. It's an illusion. It doesn't exist. People are placed and removed according to what they want. There's no election, it is selection. But they throw out democracy to keep everybody spinning on the politics to give them the illusion of choice. So, I mean, that might be a glass shattering moment to some, but that might be fighting words to others. But it is a reality. Democracy is an illusion. It doesn't exist. And so they're pushing it like it is an option when it's really not. So that's what they're pushing to the kids as well. As well as, here's the key word, sustainable development. I told you guys, sustainable development goals. It is the same stuff. It's all wrapped up in this. You got your communism for the common good. You've got the teach them that they have a choice when there is none. And then it's all for sustainable development so we can hit those technocratic roles to keep everybody under the thumb. Goes on to say, fostering spirituality in children before it goes dormant. Ay, caramba. Okay, sorry, that's something in my eye. Fostering spirituality in children before it goes dormant is of critical importance if the nation is to generate the quality of future leadership so urgently needed in all sectors and institutions. We need leadership that's going to help implement our agenda. We need puppets that we can tell what to do to get the things done that we want to get done, so we can install them in. The Collaborative for Spirituality and Education, CSE, is planting the seeds of social change. There's your social justice, and nurturing spiritually aware citizens and leaders for a new generation. Yeah, guys, this is what they're sinking into the kids' brains starting in kindergarten. And they're continuing to pound it into their brains all throughout their education, all the way through college. This is what they're doing so they can come out to be good little robots for the beast agenda that they're doing. All right, last but not least here, and then we can move on. The work of CSE is applying the science of spirituality K through 12 education is informed by the basic and applied science constructed by the Spirituality Mind-Body Institute, of course. The SMB Institute, it conducts path-breaking research to understand the brain's spiritual seat of perception. We're going to give you what perception we want, though, through which SMBI works to contribute interventions and programs to generate a more loving, there's the key word. Remember, the love that they're talking about is not the love that is found in the Bible. They're talking about this new age type of love that perpetuates the entire world. That's what they're talking about. Spiritually aware and positive society. Think positive, y'all. Staff and graduates at SMBI apply the science of spirituality in their work with communities, educators, business leaders, organizational and educational consultants, and policymakers. Do I need to go over that list again? This is what's involved, guys. They're involved with the communities, the educators, the business leaders, organizational and educational consultants, and policymakers to integrate spirituality into corporations, communities, and the military. You know how we're seeing all the alphabet agenda going on in the military? You think that that just has to do with some political woke stuff? No, it has to do with this. It's there. In mental health and wellness centers, of course, because that's where they usually start teaching the laws of attraction. Think positive things will happen. Prosperity gospel, that's where all that stuff comes from. And college campuses, we're seeing that right now with the Israel-Hamas stuff, aren't we? CSE is excited to partner with the SMBI in covering the Awaken Campus Summit in 2022. That was obviously last year, combining our efforts and our work in supporting emerging adults through integrated campuses, wellness programs. And it says 2022, but they are working on 2023 as well. We just saw a whole lot of connection there. We're talking about spreading it all throughout business, community, schools, and government. And they're talking about this all has to do with sustainable development, creating good little robots that will follow along with the new government system that they're implementing, which again, I'm not saying it is, it's just what I see it rolling towards, in my opinion, is that neo-feudalistic technocracy where you have kings and the peasants, and the kings control the peasants through technology. That's just a fancy way of saying that. And that's what we're going towards right now. And this all has to do with the new normal, or what was called a new worldview, which is ultimately re-education. And this has to do with this by implementing mystery religion into all of it. And we see that quite obviously at this point. So part of CSE's platform is a program for teachers and educators called the Awakened Schools Institute. Yes, Awakened Schools Institute. This is a year-long course of 12 virtual sessions and 2 physical site visits where they actually send people to come and visit your school through that. In this program, teachers will be indoctrinated, and that's my own word, with New Age beliefs and how to implement it and the cell curriculum into their districts, into their schools, and into their classrooms. This goes in tandem with CSE's regular crusades of attending various schooling, education conferences, and events and meetings, bringing the same agenda along with them. The same people who are part of the CSE go into all these different National Teachers Association, the National Schooling Association. They go into all these different associations, and they bring this stuff with them to teach to all the teachers and the educators, the one who top down send all this stuff through. They go to them so it can all get sent through into all these different schools. And that's their game, is not necessarily the CSE is their game isn't necessarily the kids. Their game is to get the educators and then send it all the way down, because now you're not just getting the kids, you're getting the leadership of the school through all the way down to the kids. And that's the best way to do it. And that is their game. Now, we're seeing the curriculum, we're seeing the groups, we're seeing the agenda, and we're seeing the package it's all being wrapped up in. How did we get here? First, we have to take a look at who is partnered with the CSE, and here we go. Special thanks to our partners. You got the Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisory Group. I told you we'd see them. You got the Teachers College of Columbia University. That's where SMB sits. You got the National Council for Spirituality and Education. Yep. And you got the Fetzer Institute. What a lovely group of wholesome people. The Collaborative for Spirituality and Education is housed at Teacher College, Columbia University. It was launched in collaboration with the Rockefeller and Fetzer groups. Now, who sits on the board of CSE? So that's the whole board, but there's a few names that I'm sure you guys will recognize. We got Lisa Miller, we just talked about her. We got Linda Lantieri, we've already been over her several times. And then, of course, you got Stephen and Valerie Rockefeller. The Rockefellers are known for many, many evil things. I'm sure we can all agree on that. They're known for many evil things, but their New Age beliefs are not really something that gets mentioned a whole lot. Again, it's not flashy. New Age, the mystery religion, this stuff, again, doesn't really get talked about, but it's really what is leading everything that we see happening. All the big flashes across your news screen is rooted from this. There's somebody with that belief that has helped propel that to flash across your news screen. That's ultimately what's going on. So we're going to be looking at this. Those in the family, the Rockefeller family, that are quite open about this New Age belief system. These are the ones that are pretty open about it. I don't know about some of the ones who kind of disclose their beliefs, so I can't really get into that. That's just a whole bunch of hearsay, and I'm not in this for hearsay. I like to deal in fact. And it includes Stephen Rockefeller, who sits on the board there, Laurance Rockefeller, which we're going to kind of talk about him, which he's honestly one of the Rockefellers that doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot, but he is heavy in the transhuman, all the technology stuff that we see going on along with eugenics and whatnot. We'll talk about him. Valerie Rockefeller, of course, we see her on the board as well. And Eileen Rockefeller, we've talked about her. She's one of the co-founders of Castle and the founding chair for the philanthropy advisors. So today, or starting today, I should say, because this is going to take a few episodes to go through this, we're going to be taking a look at Stephen and Laurance. Here they are, Stephen Clark Rockefeller and Laurance Spelman Rockefeller. There's faces of evil if I've ever seen them, that's for sure. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I saw Laurance, he looked like he was the father of somebody. I don't know. It's just me. Does he look like the father? I don't know. I guess it's just me, but I don't know. But yeah, so he kind of popped up. It's Jeff Goldblum, by the way. He just kind of looks like his dad or something. They got the same nose, same ear. I got this. Anyways, okay, so getting back to the Rockefeller guys, there we go. Laurance Spelman and Stephen Clark Rockefeller. So we're going to be talking about Laurance, really. Before we start getting into all of this, let's see. Okay, I think my internet is getting a little funky. Am I good? You guys can still see me? Okay. My internet just kind of took a nosedive, so I just wanted to make sure everything is solid. Okay. Hopefully we're good. It seems my internet kind of calmed down. Okay. Still on. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. And that threw me for a loop. So before we start getting into all of the Rockefeller stuff, I just want to put this out there because I know there's going to be a lot of people saying you're missing a lot of stuff and everything. This is not going to be an extensive list, an extensive history of these guys. I'm just one man, and we'd be here forever to do just an entire Rockefeller series. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to focus again on what's going on with the mystery religion stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm just going to go bypass, not even mention, just kind of mention in passing, but I'm not necessarily going to go over it because it doesn't have to do with the subject that we're on now. So I just want to throw that out there because there's a ton of stuff to talk about with the Rockefellers. There's just, again, too much stuff. And so we got things to go through specifically that we're going to do. So I just want to throw that out there, that disclaimer out there. So since these guys are more branching off points, you know how we used Barbara Marx Hubbard as a branching off point? These are more branching off points. And they're going to go into some huge holes, and we're going to go down a lot of them, and we're going to take a look at just how connected they are to other groups. And when I say just how connected they are, I mean, you want to talk about connections to connections to connections that are head guys in all of these huge, 2 and 3 letter organizations. These people are heavily involved with that. And before we start getting into all of those other things, I promised at the very beginning that we were going to bring this all the way back to Barbara Marx Hubbard, and we're going to do that right now. And for that, we're going to start with Laurance Spelman Rockefeller. So who are these guys? Laurance was brother to John D. Rockefeller III, David Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller, and Winthrop Rockefeller. And with this, he was a president and a founding trustee of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, which was created in 1940. And so if we take a look, we can see them here, all the brothers lined up there. And I want to point out the logo of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. Remember how we went over the different signs of balance and the word infinite and infinity? Well, that is an infinity symbol that is the Rockefeller Brothers Fund logo. And it just shows the influence and the beliefs that sit behind it. And they have it right there up front for everybody to see. The fund was built to finance and fund social impact investments, as well as biotechnology and digital technology. And yes, they were pursuing these things back in the 40s. As we'll go over in a little bit here. They were heavily involved with eugenics programs, and what people don't realize is eugenics has a lot to do with transhumanism, which has to do with, again, the transgenderism stuff, and ushering in Christ consciousness through conscious evolution. All of these things, while they may appear separate, are truly the same thing. It's just stepping stones to reach the same goal. And so back in the 40s, their fund was built to specifically go after these specific technologies, even back in the 40s. I kid you not. Now, these are the foundations, of course, for conscious evolution and the New Age oneness that they want. Laurance was greatly open about his belief in Gnosticism, in New Age, and metaphysical mysticism. Man, those are just the same things that we hear from like Fetzer and Linda Lantieri and Barbara Marx Hubbard and all these people. They're always obsessed with these specific things. He financially backed study and research on gnosis as well as Christ consciousness. We'll see a few of those here, but he was heavily involved with financially backing anything to do with research and study on those, as well as parapsychology, which, if you guys don't remember, John Fetzer also was doing the same thing. And that includes things like psychic ability, telepathy, precognition, telekinesis, as well as the paranormal, your aliens and stuff like that. With his beliefs and financing of them, Laurance was also bankrolled Barbara Marx Hubbard's Foundation for Conscious Evolution. If you guys remember back in the first episode, we went over her foundation of conscious evolution and what she was trying to obtain. Marx Hubbard was so grateful, she even dedicated her book called The Evolutionary Testament of Co-Creation, there's co-creation again, to Laurance. And so if we take a look, if you guys don't believe me on that, this is a snapshot straight from the book itself. It says, with great gratitude, I dedicate Evolutionary Testament. The promise will be kept to Laurance Rockefeller. I find it fascinating that she actually spelled his first name wrong on that. That's fascinating to me, but this is straight from the book. She dedicated it to Laurance Rockefeller, who recognized its purpose to help bring forth the Christ of the 21st century and supported me in forming the Foundation for Conscious Evolution to bring it forward into the world. She dedicated this book to Laurance. It shows exactly how dedicated he was to helping Marx Hubbard with her beliefs, obviously the same beliefs that he shared. And as we went over in the very beginning, Marx Hubbard's foundation about reaching Christ consciousness through conscious evolution or the transhumanism stuff, same things, is also the same beliefs that the Rockefeller Brothers Fund was designed for. That's why it was so heavy. The same thing that the fund was designed for, biotechnology and bringing in the technology for transhumanism and all these things, are the exact same thing that Marx Hubbard's foundation was doing, which made them the perfect pair. They believed in the same thing and wanted to achieve the same goal. Another pursuit in the biotech and digital tech arc for Laurance and his brothers was the creation of one of the very first venture capital firms. This firm was founded in 1946 under the name of Rockefeller Brothers Incorporated, which today is known as Venrock. You can go and look it up. You can find Venrock is still operating today. Rockefeller Brothers Incorporated transformed into Venrock in 1969, which combined the name of Venture and Rockefeller together. Venture, Ven, Rockefeller, Rock, Venrock. So it just transformed, changed names. Obviously, you have something under the name of Rockefeller, people might be sketchy, a little skeptical about getting involved. But in 1969, changed names. Laurance's prime targets for investment included Apple and Intel, two of the main companies in Silicon Valley, which launched the Silicon Valley Corporation skyward. The money Laurance and the fund was putting into those companies helped expand Silicon Valley into what we see today. The only reason why it advanced the way it did is because they dumped money into these companies. Venrock has also funded several biotech companies. Some that stand out to me when I was looking through the list include Abbott Laboratories. We've talked about them in the past. Actually, I got nailed when I talked about them before, so I'm not going to talk about them, but you can look into Abbott and what they're involved with. The Genetics Institute, Centocor, which is owned by Johnson & Johnson. Idun Pharmaceuticals, which is owned by Pfizer. Sienna Therapeutics, which is a RNA tech company that was acquired by Merck. I'm sure you've heard some of those names before. Venrock, the Rockefellers, have dumped money into these same corporations. Venrock has also doled out more money to companies involved with quantum computing, like Atom Computing, that's their main thing, is developing quantum, as well as nanotech companies like Nanosys that focuses on quantum dot technology. So a lot of the stuff that we see in the tech, the biotech, as well as the new quantum stuff, which we have talked a lot about how New Age transhumanism and quantum go hand in hand. We're seeing Venrock, we're seeing the Rockefellers dumping money into those specific groups. All of these target areas fall in line with the pursuit of transhumanism and conscious evolution, and these are the areas Laurance and his brothers chose. They specifically chose these areas to fund with their group that they created. This transhumanism pursuit is just the next evolution of the Rockefellers' involvement with eugenics. And again, we go to eugenics where it has to do with designing the humans that they want. We're seeing that come to fruition now with the artificial wombs. We've talked about all this stuff before, where you can design the kids that you want in all of these things. Eugenics is the next step. It started out dirty, and now we're getting into the technological version of it. But they're all the same thing. This goes all the way back to mystery religion, where it's Christ consciousness, where God's designing, taking the conscious step, that conscious evolution into the next one, which is this. And so the Rockefellers were heavily involved with eugenics, and this can be traced back to Nazi Germany when the Rockefellers helped fund eugenicist Agnes Blum, and starting in 1926, funded other German eugenicists, Hermann Pohl, Alfred Gottschalk, and Hans Nachschem. They funded these guys back in Nazi Germany for eugenics. All the things that we see, all the human tests, and the absolutely evil things that they were doing to people, they were funded. But if you want to go back even further, because Nazi Germany actually had to get that idea from someone, you also have the Rockefellers involved with the American eugenics, which happened before Nazi Germany, because the Rockefellers, they funded, they funded eugenics projects along with the Carnegie Institution. So both the Rockefellers and Carnegie Institution helped fund Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory eugenics program that began in 1904. This was the same program that Nazi Germany designed their programs after. Hitler got inspiration from this eugenics program, and it was funded by Rockefellers, which then ended up funding Germany's eugenics projects as well. This was also the same eugenics program that Woodrow Wilson, Margaret Sanger, and Oliver Wendell Holmes supported as well. And then going back to Germany, the Rockefellers also funded the German eugenics institutes of Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Psychiatry, as well as the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Anthropology, Eugenics, and Human Heredity. So, you want to talk about an evil family that has the New Age beliefs, that wants Christ consciousness, or believes in Christ consciousness, that wants to reach it through conscious evolution. And so they're funding eugenics, they're funding transhuman projects, they're funding Silicon Valley, they're funding Barbara Marx Hubbard and all of her ventures. We've been over just some of them. We haven't even been all of them yet. And all of these things blend in and lead into what we see in the UN and the WEF and all these other organizations. This is your mystery religion. All of these things which everybody thinks is separate, are all a part of this mystery religion that is riding that beast system into what we see today. And the Rockefellers are right at the heart of it. Everybody knows they're evil. Everybody knows they're one of those families, along with the Rothschilds and all them, that are backing and controlling pretty much everything that we see today. But why are they doing it? Well, we're getting a good snippet of why they're doing it. Because they believe in the same stuff that Alice Bailey, Blavatsky, Hermes Trismegistus, all these guys believed in. And they're just funding it because they've got the money to do it. So while we took that little jaunt of eugenics, I can't go too much farther in that because of where we're at. Hopefully I don't even get nailed for just talking about that stuff. But while this may seem like we're going off track slightly because eugenics and stuff, they're really one and the same. They play a part in both preserving the planet as well as transhumanism. If you can design the ultimate human and grow them like they're trying to do with artificial wombs and stuff, you need less people. It has to do with preserving the planet. We understand that that's one of their main goals. We even saw it in the Georgia Guidestones before that just disappeared like it did. They need to reduce the population. We understand that has to do with AI and robotics as well. We've been through all that stuff. If you can go and check out the other stuff, we're not going to get into it, but it's all connected. And to really connect dots, remember last Saturday, for those who joined me last Saturday, I showed some of the big names who are connected to the Fetzer Institute. If you guys don't remember, this is the list that I showed. Notable faces connected to Fetzer Institute. We see Eileen Rockefeller, Orest Bedry, Robert Yan, Linda Lantieri, Morris Strong. Well, what I find fascinating is Robert Yan there, right in the middle of it, the guy who founded the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Program. He was also funded by Laurance Rockefeller. So if we take a look at an article from the New York Times back in 2007, this is news of the Princeton Group's experiment spread quickly worldwide among people interested in paranormal phenomena, including telekinesis and what people call extrasensory perception. Notable figures from Europe and Asia stopped by. Keith Jarrett, the jazz pianist, paid a visit. For a time, the philanthropist Laurance Rockefeller visited regularly and donated money for research. Isn't it amazing how connected all of these people truly are? I told you all these, it's the club. They're all in it. They have these beliefs. They fund each other to get this mystery religion done. I remember when I was going through this and researching this and whatnot, and I came across that article. Thank you to the Wayback Machine, by the way, man. But I remember when I came across that article, and it was just one of those moments where it was just my head just, the emoji with the head explosion type of thing. And I just leaned back in my chair and I just had to sit there for a few minutes because I'm like, this is absurd how interconnected all of this stuff is. The same program that this guy did, who was on the board of trustees for the Fetzer Institute, who created this anomalies, there we go, program at Princeton. He was funded by Laurance Rockefeller, the same guy who was involved with pursuing the same stuff. And it's just, everybody knows each other. Everybody is pursuing the same thing. And this is what I'm talking about. You can just see the string. Like if you had the picture of, when they're trying to solve a mystery and they got the red string going all over the place. Mystery religion is that red string, and it connects every single dot of what we see happening with this beast system right now. You just got to be able to go below the surface and look for this. Again, we can go over all the things that the Rockefellers are a part of, but it's the why. It's the why that I want to know about. And it never disappoints, because you will find mystery. You will find her in everything in this stuff. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Bible told us. The Bible tells us. There it is. There she is. And between the years of 1987 and 1995, Laurance also financed a man by the name of Roger A. Weir, W-E-I-R, Weir. I don't, we'll just say Weir. I might be wrong, but that's what we're going to go with. Weir. Okay. Sorry. Weir wrote and taught Gnostic beliefs, and Laurance financed Weir's books, including the subjects of a secret relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I'm sure you guys have heard that ridiculous theory before. He also wrote books on Jesus as a New Age light bringer, which we've heard that before. And that's also where we start getting into the song Waymaker, which I've talked about before. He also wrote books on Hermeticism, which, again, Hermes Trismegistus, the Emerald Tablets, 7 Principles of the Universe. He also wrote and believed in stuff on that too. Told you it's all connected. Weir also wrote about Eastern mysticism, cosmic evolution, Christ consciousness, as well as dimension travel and astral elders. Laurance funded all of that. To finish off this circle of Marx Hubbard and Laurance Rockefeller, we can confirm via forewords in her books. I showed one. She dedicated that one book. But in other books that she wrote, she also thanked Laurance for all of what he did, not just financially, but also how he contributed in other ways to help establish her other foundations that she was working on, as well as her other papers that she was researching and whatnot. And by going through the different books that she wrote over the time period that she wrote and the forewords that she wrote to Laurance, we understand that the connection of Marx Hubbard and Laurance Rockefeller goes at least 24 years deep. This was not a one-off thing. This was not a 5-year thing. This was several decades of supporting, financing, and helping Marx Hubbard with her conscious evolution and Christ consciousness. The connection goes deep. The connection goes deep. So, all right. So I told you we were going to bring it back around. It took 13 episodes to bring this back around. I told you Marx Hubbard was connected to Rockefellers in the first episode, and we finally got to the point where that is. Now we've got jumping off points with both Laurance and Stephen that's going to take us into some very high places with some very, very high people. And so for tonight, we're going to stop here. But again, this does not conclude by any means the series or the Rockefellers, because right now we're going to start, or starting next Saturday, Lord willing, we're going to start going heavily into other things that include United Nations, the Council of Foreign Relations, the Earth Charter, the Club of Rome, the Club of Budapest, Morris Strong, Robert Mueller, and a bunch of other ones. And you're going to be surprised at who is all involved and how connected they are to things that you're like, huh? There's no way. But it actually is. So strap in, because now is when we start getting into the heavy stuff, even though we've been through some heavy stuff already. But you know what I mean. So